Shout out to the Hype Magazine.
And we right here with the Hype Magazine. You already know what it is.
Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome to another live session with the Hype Magazine. I'm your editor-in-chief, Jerry Doby, and today, I have the distinct honor and pleasure of speaking with a true icon in the world of radio broadcasting. He's a legendary personality, a host, program director who has left an indelible mark on the music industry overall. We're talking about none other than Greg Mack Attack Mack. Mack is a pioneering figure responsible for breaking some of the biggest names in the music industry and creating a benchmark era in hip hop. Most notably, when we talk about West Coast hip hop, he's the man who broke NWA's iconic hit single "Boys in the Hood." It went straight from studio to radio, and that was the beginning of a tsunami of West Coast hip hop. His contributions to the music industry also include, he's like really kind of responsible for that CHR rhythmic radio format that you're exposed to every single day. He's pretty much the inspiration for that. He also had a group of DJs that he put on the map through his Mixmaster show called the Mixmaster. The Great Mack Attack Mack show. Mixmasters, they became some of the most celebrated DJs from the West Coast in hip hop. And of course, he did this from the launching point of the iconic, legendary AM radio station 1580 K-Day, the original. During the 50th anniversary of hip hop, Greg's contributions to the fabric of the culture can't be overstated. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jerry. It's good to see you, man.
It's good to be seen relative to you. It's amazing.
I was in your wedding. A lot of people don't know that. I was in your wedding.
You were one of my groomsmen. And people look at me who know me and go, you haven't done anything special. I'm like, do you know who was in my wedding? Let me just say, my wedding day was extra special. I have the king of CHR Rhythmic, the man who launched NWA's radio career and exposed them to the world, changed an entire era of music, standing next to me as one of my groomsmen in my wedding. We have been married 20 years, she and I. Jessica and I.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Among other luminaries that were in my wedding, Greg Mack, that was a huge deal. That was a huge deal.
Well, you've lasted longer than all three of my marriages and divorces. So you're doing good, man.
I don't know how she tolerated me, man. I went back into the military. I retired from the military since then, spent a couple of years in the hospital, getting put back together. And here I am living my second career, my dream, which of course is to be the editor-in-chief of a heck of a.
I think what a lot of people fail to realize is that, with success, it comes, you've got to really put your energy into your work. And that's been a good thing and a bad thing. It's been a good thing because of all the good things that's happened. It's been a bad thing because the wives don't like you working 16, 18-hour days, 7 days a week, and then leaving your cell phone all night. doesn't work very well. So, there's sacrifices that come, and I'm kind of getting to the point to where I kind of know how to balance it, but not quite.
I'm 20 years in, I'm like, I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
And especially, things, I think things really get difficult when things start to break. And, the opportunities come and the bread starts to come and you go, oh, I got to work harder now. I get addicted. And then, so like in your case, we've got 4 decades in radio, right?
I've been in radio 47, almost 48 years. I started in high school.
Man.
And I went one semester at college, San Antonio College, and I got this great job offer. And I says, well, I can go back to school. Let me just go get this going and I'll go back to school. And I unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I wish I'd at least gotten my bachelor's or some kind of degree. I think that there's a lot of things that now hinder me because I didn't. But I don't regret anything about radio. But I would like to start teaching, at some of the colleges or something to the hip hop classes and stuff. But you got to have a bachelor's degree. So what can I say? you know,
You know,
I'll teach them up from afar. I do speak to a lot of schools
okay, create your own course.
though.
I
There you go.
You create your own course. With the advent of AI, you can create an entire infrastructure for a business.
With
And
the advent of AI, who needs teachers? I'm joking, teachers. I'm joking. I
you
have a
know,
lot of friends that are teachers that are really worried about this AI stuff.
I think the thing is they have to learn to teach them how to think. So this just circles back to critical thinking and teaching through critical thinking in school. How do you phrase a question to get an answer? You know what I mean? And there are some drawbacks in AI, especially in the media part. It delivers things that aren't readable and aren't SEO optimized. So you can look and go, that's a standard AI kind of delivery. But
Mhm.
I saw a list of also of people who, including the guy who created ChatGPT, that says, you know, this could lead us to the brink of extinction as a human race.
Mhm.
That,
There's so much to learn.
mm,
I've been toying around with it, and I'm just amazed. I mean, you can ask it anything,
yeah.
and I was sitting here like, okay, what do I not want people to know?
Man,
you know,
I
and
wonder.
you ask it, and it pops up now.
Yeah,
So,
for real, for real.
hey, it's. I think that when you start getting to that level to where you don't want to learn, or you think you don't need to learn, or whatever, that's when you're getting old. And I don't feel like I'm getting old. That's why when people ask me what I think about the new hip hop of today, I'm like, I love it because even though I'm not a fan of auto tune, to be honest with you, I like the fact that there's still kids coming up out of the community and making something of themselves besides as it used to be before the drug dealer, or the NBA star, the football star, were who everybody looked up to. And so I'm not saying that all rappers should be looked up to. Some of them shouldn't be looked up to, but
Yeah,
overall,
yeah, yeah,
I try not to judge, because I think that whatever decade you grew up in, the music you like then is the music you're always going to like. You're always going to like. But if you want to grow, you continue to grow, you need to try and understand what the music is that's coming out.
yeah. And to that end, you know, you said you started in radio early, and now here we are 47 years, 48 years later, nearly half a century
Mm-hmm.
in the business. You've seen everybody, their cat, uncle, and dog come through the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
You've spoken with them, you interviewed them, you watched them maybe even develop, and you've given a lot of them breaks. Can you talk to me about, from the inside looking in, how you reflect on Greg Mack and your contributions to the fabric of West Coast hip hop, and graduate into how that bled over nationally and globally?
Well, I think the thing that I carry with it is that it's an honor to be, uh, the one that started the very first ever in the world rap station, because back then it was called rap. It is hip hop now, of course, for marketing purposes. But I take a lot of honor in that. Um, and to now see rap, in a multi-billion-dollar platform, a lot of the groups that came through me are very wealthy. Uh, there's so many stories that I can't wait to get out when I can finally slow down enough to finish the book that I'm writing, uh, because I think that there's a lot of his stories out there, and I'd like to kind of give my version of that. And I have to be very careful when I say that because a lot of people think, you know, that the book is right. My son, just to give you an example, he was taking a class and they were doing a study on Tupac. And there was one particular event that they were focusing in on. And that's when you're getting old, because I told my son, I said, I was actually there. So that book is not right. Let me tell you exactly what happened. You're going to get an A. And so I told him this happened, A happened, B happened, blah blah blah. And so I said, call me back when you get that A. So he called me back a couple of days later. He says, you know what, Dad, I got an F. I said, well, that's exactly what happened. He said, yeah, but the teacher said that's not what it says in the book. And so I was like, oh my Lord, what does it say in the book? And then I had him send it to me because I didn't believe it. So I was like, wow. So this is what, I'd always heard the terminology, his story, but there's a lot of his stories out there. So God willing, I'll be able to set the record straight. But see, you also have to understand that it's from my point of view.
Right.
I always tell people, I said, there's hundreds of people that could write a book about what we did at 1580 K Day because it affected so many people. And they could write a book talking about how it affected them. And it might be different from my angle because my angle is how I did it. Their angle is how it affected them,
Mhm.
you know. And also, I have to also be careful because there was a lot of powerful people around me at 1580 K Day. One of the people that I really uh, made me want to come to Los Angeles was JJ Johnson
Mm.
because every time I'd look at a music trade, JJ was in. He was hanging out with either Michael Jackson or some major star,
Mhm.
and I'm like, man, he knows everybody. I want to go to LA. Even when people were telling me, "Don't go to LA, don't go to LA," I said, "No, I want to go. I want to go do what JJ's doing."
Yeah, no doubt.
And then you had, Jack Patterson, Ed Kirby, Russ Parr, Lisa Canning, the late Steve Woods, it, Don Tracy. It was a lot of talent up in there. So when you go up in a station like that, and these guys got all these pipes in their voices, and and my voice has never been my attribute. I've always felt like it was my personality, but the music thing. Now, mind you, and it's very important to note this too. The rap started on the radio. It started before that. Cool Herc many years before that, but 77 it started with Sugar Hill Gang,
Right.
Rapper's Delight. Now, I was not programming it at that time. A lot of stations played this song. A lot of stations on the urban side, they started to play Curtis Blow, some Run DMC. But, I hit right after that. The rap started in 77, 1580 K Day. We started in August of 1983. So, whatever you've heard, if they didn't start before August of 1983, we were the first. And I know we were. But I just get a lot of satisfaction out of that. And understand, I know I'm just taking over your interview,
No,
but
go, no, go, almost go.
the West Coast was elevated by Dre and NWA, World Class Wrecking Crew, but there was a lot more talent that came out of there, and we were so happy. I was so happy to be a part of exposing that. I mean, some of the people that we were doing things with out of the East Coast because we weren't just a West Coast station.
Right, right, right.
And there's another misconception about what we were doing. At 1580 K Day, we were also uh, the innovators of freestyle music. It
Mm.
used to be called high energy. Um, give you an example. Full Force's manager, the late Steve Salem, had come to me and said, "Greg, I got this artist, the record label, she was on Columbia at the time, the record label won't put it out in the States. And, uh, I want you to see what you think of it." And I listened to it and I said, "Cool, I'm going to play it." It was Lisa, Colt
Mm.
James. I wonder if I
Wow.
take you home. And about 6 to 8 months later, they released it, over in the States and it blew up. But, I could tell you stories like that all day long. You're going to have to wait for
Wow.
the documentary. There are so many groups. And then, we were a combination of rap, freestyle, and R&B. That was what I did. And then it's how you blend it to make it all work because, there were so many people coming down on stations that would play rap music at that time. And a lot of the urban programmers out at that time, they really looked down upon me. They're like, "Man, what are you doing?
Mm.
Why are you doing that?" Record companies were calling me, threatening to break my legs. True story. Uh,
Why?
you
Wow.
have to understand that the major record stores wouldn't even carry rap music. Well, the record companies, their angle was, look, we didn't spend 100,000 over here promoting this R&B record, and I'm not going to get into too many names because the story can get deep. But
Right.
we're sitting over here spending 100,000, and you playing a damn cassette from Toddy T Battery, and he didn't pay you nothing. And that was another thing. They couldn't figure out why I wouldn't take payola. I just refused to. And anybody off the streets could walk into the station and bring me a record, and if it was good before they left the building, it was on the air. It was, it was like that. I was getting acid tapes. People didn't know I had connections with the people that printed the albums, and so they would sneak me the acid tape. Prince, I think Prince finally figured out how I would get it. One of my friends that worked at Warner Brothers, Dan Stewart, he's a big time lawyer now, but Dan used to sneak me the acid tape, and Prince enjoyed it. One of my friends did security for him, and Prince used to always tell him that he loved me, man. But there's so many stories. I don't mean to rattle on. Go ahead and ask me your questions, man. I can talk all day.
You know what? We're celebrating Hip Hop 50, and any legend, you started the whole rap movement, radio rap movement on the West Coast. You're responsible for it. So my goal is not to stop you in telling the story how you see that it should be told. I just want to guide you through. And,
I appreciate it.
Because I'm going to deliver it exactly the way you're saying it. And I mean, that's where we made our bones, is no gossip, no opinion pieces, none of that. Go to the source, the people who created the movements, and that's what differentiates us from the rest of the people who are not celebrating 21 years as a magazine. So, yeah, please don't stop. If you the story in the fabric, because let's go back to the book. What's the name of the book? You've been talking about this book for a while.
Well, I've written the book, but
I missed one. Okay.
I wanted to at the time I was thinking of getting a ghostwriter to go in and fill it out, because I've read a lot of books from the hip hop era, and they don't really make me want to read past 10 pages, because it's not very well thought out. And I just want mine to be very well thought out, easy to read, easy to understand. I also understand that I have a responsibility, because, I was doing the first rap radio station, to make sure that all of the history that can be squeezed out of the story can be put into this book. I would anticipate that it will become a curriculum at many colleges.
I am anticipating getting a sneak peek at the galleys.
I'll tell you one thing, it'll be done before this year is out. So,
okay.
And I'm not going to go through all of the publishing companies and blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to put it out. I'm just going to put it on Amazon, and hopefully people will find it, buy it. It's not about getting rich, it's about just getting the knowledge out there.
You got an ally here for that. I will use my entire network, the entire Hype Magazine network.
I know you will.
That is important, because they forget about us from the West Coast. And Kool Herc, shout out, Big L, shout out, rest in peace. You know what I mean? All those cats, of L, who's a legend, obviously, and forever kind of personality. I hear he's got new music coming out. And every time these elders, put their minds to it and come out, they bang these youngsters right upside their head with some real hip hop. You know what I mean? Like, this is how it's done, youngsters. Let me just flex real quick. And you've seen that a lot throughout the history, where the old heads kind of sit back and say, you know what, I'm gonna respect the youngsters coming, but let me go on and put them in their place, especially when you have youngsters who be like, oh, Tupac and Biggie weren't among the greatest lyricists alive, or they were overrated. Be like, boy, when is Tupac's birthday? Say something that I, know that you know what you're talking about. So the education needs to be there in the history. I believe I'm seeing a wave of youngsters, like, ironically I say wave, but like Wave Chappelle and D. Wright, Literally, he's like from Milwaukee or Minnesota, but he's amazing. He was signed to Gotti at one point on the CMC when he had his joint venture with Sony. Uh, the art of lyricism, storytelling, you know what I mean? Punchlines, dropping lyrical missiles basically is starting to come back. And the mumble rappers are having finding their market share shrinking, which is great.
Yeah, the mumble word is kind of derogatory to me. The auto tune rappers. But I look at it this way. If you're making money and you are able to support your family and you are doing great things for the community, you know what? Bring it on. I just try and understand them, because when I started doing the rap on the radio thing, nobody understood me. Nobody took the time. Everybody thought it was a fad, a trend. You know, I never received, awards and, you know, accolades, because I was just looked so down upon. I think overall it has probably hurt my image. But I think that there's people like yourself that understand that, I was pulling shots and nobody, I was taking chances. Dude, I was out there getting shot at these roller skating rinks. It was a crazy world, but I was also having fun.
You were in the trenches. We talk about.
I was in the trenches, man. Let me tell you something.
World on wheels. Huh?
You ain't heard nothing unless you've heard a bullet go by your ear. And this is what it sounds like. It's like, shh. That's it. It's like a little whisper. When they start getting that close, it's like, okay.
Yeah, time to go. Yeah, I understand. What was at the beginning? What was the most exciting part? I know, like, you had in the LA area, you had two major competing promotional crews that were out there. Shout out Roger Clayton, of course, rest in peace, from Uncle Jam's Army, and Lonzo Williams, World Class Wrecking Crew, Crew Cut Records and all that.
What was the playing field out on the scene? Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
So when I first got here,
really going on?
when I got here, the hottest thing going was Uncle Jam's Army, which is who you're referring to with late Roger Clayton, and Roger, was doing the L.A. Sports Arena, which is no longer here, but the L.A. Sports Arena. He was having. He used to say 10,000. I recently heard he was only like 5 or 6, but it looked like 10,000.
Right.
But anyway, the place was packed with kids. When I first moved out here, my sister said, come go with me. I'm going to Uncle Jam's Army dance. And I'm like, what the hell is Uncle Jam's Army? So I had seen posters up everywhere. And first I was thinking, well, Parliament, I don't know. But anyway, we went and I walked in. I couldn't believe my eyes. And so what he doesn't know is that he started an arc of competition when he did what he did, which is I walked up to him. I said, hey, I'm Greg Mack. I'm here. I'm running this 1580 K-Day music, because I was the music director. Jack Patterson's program. I said, dude, we need to tie in and do some stuff, man. I want to be tied in, because in my mind, I'm thinking if I tie in with him, I get more listeners. All these thousands of kids. And so Roger, he just looked at me, started laughing, and looked back at the crowd. He said, does it look like I need motherfucking radio? And so I was like, I was angry, because I'm like, is he turning me down? He thought it was funny. But what it did was, because I'm one of those people that I never ever see roadblocks. I just see hurdles.
Right.
And so I said, okay, let me jump over this one. So I started looking to put together my own group of DJs. And that's when I ran into Alonzo. And Alonzo allowed me to use a couple of his DJs, Dr. Dre and DJ Yellow. And so they started doing mixes for me. I created a term which is now used everywhere called traffic jam. That was me that started. I wish I'd have trademarked that term, because every station has it. But we started doing the traffic jam, and it just exploded, blew up, and they got too busy. I had to recreate myself there, and There was a rapper named Kid Frost that
Yeah.
said, "Hey, I got a DJ. He's this, he's that. Blah blah blah. It's this Cuban kid." And I'm like, "Cuban kid." Anyway, I met him. It was Tony G. And Tony G, everything Frost said, he was right. Tony G, I think, was the best overall uh, DJ ever
Mm.
because he could appeal to any crowd. Some DJs can appeal to certain crowds, certain ages. He appealed to every race, every age, every type of music, and I've never met a DJ like
Mm. I see him now on social media
him.
from time to time and having really great conversations. I'm going, man, that dude, those are some stories. And then who else came out? So Tony G was the first
My
and
mix masters,
Mixed Masters.
because Yella and Dre weren't mix masters.
Right.
You will hear that in some of his stories. Um, when I created the mix masters, I called them the Mack Attack mix masters at that time.
Right.
It was the initial guys were Tony G, DJ Joe Cooley,
Yeah.
and Jam and Gemini. And they argue about who was first or whatever, but that was the way I. But we eventually brought on other DJs because what was happening is all the rap groups were taking my DJs out on the road, so everybody was out on a tour, and so I had to keep rotating guys in. We'd have competitions around town, man, and every DJ in LA wanted to be a mix master. Let me tell you. And
Man.
so, DJ Mwalk came on, Henry G came on, Julio G came on. We would rotate guys, DJ Romeo, Traysky. I know I'm going to forget some names, but we were the baddest DJs in LA, and I personally think East Coast. Every time we go out to the new music seminar, uh, we'd always lose by 1 point. It would be the finals, and then we'd go up against the East Coast guy, and he'd get a 10 and we'd get a 1, even though we killed him.
Right.
So we never could win that damn thing. But
Hey.
we did have a battle in a neutral territory in Phoenix. So my man Red Alert, who I consider a good friend, he put together the best in New York, and I took my mix masters down there. Winner take all. It was a $10,000 prize.
Wow.
And it wasn't even close. It wasn't even close.
I remember, K-Day. I came home to LA, my first break-in service because I went, was actually in 83. I went in 81 and I had a break-in service around 83, 84. And of course I was trying to figure out what I was going to listen to, and my taste had changed, and I was, back in on the block a little bit, and they're like, K-Day, man, I never changed that radio station ever again. 15 until it went I never changed that radio station in my vehicle. K-Day is some of the most memorable music moments for me, music discovery moments. I'm like, who is that?
Some of the biggest people in not just music business, but even in the movie business, TV business. I was flattered when Carson Daly had mentioned me when they were doing a story on the Grammys. Queen Latifah and Jimmy Kimmel were talking about me on his show. I mean, the list goes on and on. And more recently, Quentin Tarantino gave me a lot of love in his latest book. And so there's a lot of major stars that when they run into me, I'm shocked at the response I get. I'm like,
wow.
They grew up, listening to me. My buddy Bud Bundy, David Faustino, he's one of my biggest supporters. Him and Christina Applegate used to come to the radio station to hang out with me. What I didn't know is when I used to bring Roxanne Shante, Biz Markie, and Big Daddy King out here to do station promotions with us. I didn't know that there was this kid that was also hanging with us, who is now known as Jay-Z, you know. And
Wow.
so I ran into Jay-Z a few years back, and he knew more about me than I remembered. And I attribute the fact that's probably why he's doing so well is because he knew the history.
Mm.
And if you're gonna, do a craft, know the history. I mean, I was just sitting there like, you remember? I had forgotten some things he was telling me about me, you know.
Wow.
And so I'm always flattered and honored. I may not get the national accolades. Maybe my 15 minutes just haven't gotten here yet.
Mm.
I don't know, but I'm still, doing my thing, and uh, I anticipate I'm gonna try and do it for at least another 3 years, and then I plan on, uh, probably just focusing on doing my syndicated show until stations quit carrying it.
Okay.
But other than that, I'd like to sit my ass down, but we'll
It's a
see what
lot.
happens. We'll see what happens.
It's a lot. I remember you were owning stations. Like,
Mhm.
this is, I got another, I'm like, wow. One of the most amazing business people that I'm like, I got to sit back and watch. I'm like, what? Yeah, we're buying
You
another.
also you also saw me losing them, or you saw me having to sell them.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something about owning a radio station. And if you're thinking about getting in it, it is much better to sign the back of a check than the front. Okay.
Mm.
So trust me, it is a lot of work, man. It is a lot. And these people that are these major radio corporations that are having all these financial problems, they're learning it too, except they got a few million, in their
Yeah.
pocket for when it falls apart. But it ain't easy. It ain't easy, especially in today's world. I used to be able to ask my little nieces and nephews what was hot, and they would tell me what's going on. I knew what to play. Now, I ask them, what's the hottest station? What are you listening to? Oh, I watch YouTube. I don't listen to radio. I'm watching TikTok. I'm watching
Yeah.
radio's not their first choice. And I attribute that problem to the fact of conglomeration when all these groups, started owning all these multiple radio stations. It really, really hurt radio because before all the stations were competing against each other.
Right.
Now everybody's just trying to drive the stock. They don't necessarily want to win. They want to maintain the stock.
Right.
Most of them know we don't want to come in first place because if we come in first place, stock's going to go down because there's no room to grow. So they want to come in just high enough, just low enough to maintain that stock price and keep it growing. That's the way radio is driven right now, and
Wow.
that's been a huge downfall.
I had no idea that's how the game was played on at the business table, at the board table.
Oh yeah. Now, mind you, I wouldn't mind being one of those owners of those stations,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna tell you, it's not helping radio. But the guys that owned it, they're gonna be all right. They're not, you know, worrying about paying bills and stuff at home,
Right.
not at home. So,
I had watched some changes, when CBS radio went, and then Odyssey, was gobbling up everything. And matter of fact, they have an office just down the street from my house. Uh,
mhm,
I go Odyssey, and I have to ask this question. It's
mhm.
not a hip hop related question. It's just you as a media personality, as a correspondent journalist in that vein. Who was the most difficult conversation you ever had or interview that you ever had throughout these 48 years?
You know, I never I never had a difficult.
Hmm.
What I did have is some effects.
Okay.
And I didn't know about some of. Matter of fact, I didn't know about any of them
Mhm.
until later. Just to give you an example, I was at a Jack the Rapper convention.
Yeah,
If you remember,
I remember.
that was the convention in Atlanta, and the guy that was the DJ for the group Third Base, I think his name was Chill. Anyway, we were over there talking. He just walked up and grabbed me by my collar and he was ready to punch me. And I'm like, what the? And so, people grabbed him and stuff. And I'm like, dude, what's wrong with you, man? Uh, I, I, I didn't even get upset, because I'm not a fighter. I don't, it's just not my
Yeah.
style.
Right.
So, I didn't know what was going on. He said, MF, you set us up. You set us up. I said, what are you talking about? So finally they got him to calm down and walked him off. And one of my friends walked up and said, oh yeah, man. When they left your radio station, they got down the hill from the station, they were getting gas. And so people came by and started shooting at them. Now, backstory is that third base was having a little problem with MC Hammer. So Hammer, who I've always considered a very good friend, I said, Hammer, get on the phone. Third base is going to be here. And I'm going to straighten this out because that was my thing to get beef. People are having beef. I'd get them on the air and try and work it out.
Right.
And so we talked. Hammer got on. They got a blah, blah, blah. I thought it was cool. What I didn't know is that when they left the station, somebody started shooting them. And so they thought that I set them up. And so I'm like, whoa, I would never, ever, ever.
Not your style.
And I know that he's got stuff on YouTube now where he's talking trash about me. Search from third base. But I just want to straighten the record of that. I never, ever, I really like those guys. I never, would set up anybody. I was trying to keep the peace. But see, here's the problem you have sometimes. Sometimes when you have listeners that take, like I know firsthand that a lot of groups would create beefs because they knew it sold records. I was in the studio a couple of times and they'd say, okay, I'm going to talk about your mom. I'm going to talk about your daddy. And you can talk about my sister, my brother, like that. And so that's what they would do. But what happens is a lot of times listeners actually try to get involved. And so if that was done at third base, I'm assuming because I don't know, but I'm assuming that it had to be a listener that was taking it personally. Or it could have been that they were just wearing the wrong color because I didn't pay attention to what they was wearing. In LA, you can get shot at for wearing the wrong color in the wrong neighborhood. I don't know. But I learned quick when I got here because, I'm a country boy. Right. A lot of people don't know. I was born in a city that, God, it's probably 100, 200 people,
Where were you born?
Emory, Texas. That's where I was.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
And, when I got to California, everybody's laughing because I still have my little Texas accent. First friend I made when I got here was Barry White, late Barry White. And so him and Ray Parker Jr., because Ray had just opened up a recording studio, Maracon Studio. So I was invited over there. So I got to talking to Barry White. Barry just started laughing. And I looked at him. He said, no, I'm not laughing at you. I love your accent, man. Yeah. Said, you need to stay just like you are. He said, you're like a breath of fresh air. Wow. And so Barry and I became good friends. And he was educating me on the streets because a lot of people don't know Barry used to be a gang member. He did some jail. He did some jail for that.
Okay.
And so he was telling me what colors to wear here, what colors to wear there. Don't wear over here. Don't say, like from Texas, when we said blood or cuz, we meant it as a term of endearment.
Right.
It's like, what's up, blood? What's up, cuz? And so when I got out here, he's like, man, don't you do that. Don't do that. It means something different out here.
Yeah.
Okay. So Barry would, he'd invite me over to his house, go back. He had a studio behind his house. We'd go back there listening to music. But, even though he could croon and was one of the smoothest brothers on vinyl I ever met, he you didn't want to mess with it. People just didn't know, Yeah. And I tell people all the time, they say, well, what was the highlight of your career? The highlight of my career was sitting backstage with Barry White and Isaac Hayes. And we're sitting there playing cards, talking major. They were talking, just cracking on folks. I was sitting there just so in awe. I'm like, so those are the kind of things that were highlights in my career. It wasn't, that I wasn't getting awards because I already know what that's about. It's the awards thing is a click. It's about who you know. It's about what you've done for them and stuff. And And I would think that I'd be getting a major award because
Oh,
I made a lot of folks millionaires and billionaires. But
okay.
it's all good. I don't judge my success by financial, because otherwise I'd be a very poor, success
Right,
poor guy.
right, right. I think that the awards that you're talking about are the memories of sitting playing cards. Come on, man, with two legends like that.
And I'm
You're
gonna tell you
right.
the other thing. They were legends. I don't like the word legend. People say, "Man, you're a legend." I don't like that word because all the legends I know are not with us, and I'm trying to be around, so don't call me a legend.
You're a living legend. You could be a living legend. It's
Oh
okay.
man,
One
I
of
don't need the
the,
I don't need the title.
but you've done the work.
I
And
like, you know who said it properly? There's a writer, Dan Charnas. You may have read his book, The Big Payback.
hmm,
He's my favorite writer. And
mhm.
so Dan did a top 20 black DJs of all time. You can Google it; it's still on there. And so I made that list. I think I came in at 13 or whatever. But they weren't DJs because of any other particular reason than a transformation that they made to radio. The difference, they made a big difference in radio. It wasn't because they had these great, you know, awards that they've received or whatever. It was about the change that they made to radio. So to be on that list meant way more to me than any of this legend.
I
Uh,
understand.
you
I
know,
understand.
and most of the people on that list are no longer with us. So I feel honored.
Yeah, I can understand. Legend is thrown out a lot. But you know
Yeah,
what?
you could come out with one record, and next year you're getting a legendary.
Yeah. Well, at my age, I'm looking at it, I'm going, you know what? My mom always said if the shoe fits, dance in it. And
Yeah.
that's what it is. So we're not gonna argue about it. You're older than me. I will like submit. Okay, no problem. We won't use the word legend, but one of the most impactful figures in radio throughout almost a half century in the game, Greg Mack Attack Mack. The doors he's opened, the opportunities that he's provided are amazing for the West Coast. And we're here talking about the beginning of West Coast rap on radio. And I am also glad to be able to celebrate him at nearly 50 years on radio with the 50th anniversary of hip hop. Talk to me about how you see your place in that 50-year history. You've been on the radio almost as long as hip hop has been officially acknowledged.
Well, I'll let history or the future decide what my place is.
There goes you and
Uh,
Jazzy Jeff saying the same thing. Okay,
well, it's the truth.
I understand.
I can't sit here and say, you better put me here. Um, I think that once, because you have to understand, a lot of people don't know,
Mhm.
and they don't know that's that guy. Just like you ever see, like, when they say, well, this black man discovered the
Yeah.
refrigerator, this black man is, and you're sitting there like, wow, I didn't know that. And so it's sort of like that. People don't know. Uh, you're that guy that started. Um, I don't. Here's the thing. There should be an award show called Transformation,
Mm.
and I would get nominated in that one.
Okay.
There should be a award show called Transformational. People that have done things that the people, just don't know about. So hopefully, there are things in the works, beyond the book and beyond some film stuff that are going to tell more of the story. And so like I said, I'll let history decide, uh, how I place in history. I'm just thankful. I'm thankful to have been a part of a lot of these people's success. I really am.
Mm.
And I see them, with all of the money and blah blah. I'm happy as hell. I'm not a hater. I'm happy for them. I don't go and ask them, hey man, you made $1 billion since I started. You kicked me down 1 million.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't do that. It's just not my style. I'm
You did it
fine.
for the
I'm
love of the
fine that I
culture.
am. Huh?
You did it for the love of the culture and to provide opportunity. You just reach. That's your heart. You know what I
We
mean?
created the culture.
Yes.
Let's keep it real. When we were doing it, we were the mom and pop stores were making a killing because of me. They loved me
Right.
because we were playing music nobody else would play, and the only place you could get it was the mom and pop store. They came up.
Yeah.
Look at my boy at VIP.
VIP. Yeah.
Look at Steve over at Rhodium. Look at all these other stores because the majors wouldn't carry it. They came up. So those are the kind of things that make me happy to see the average person, to see these kids that are daily getting shot and pulled over. Uh, when NWA came out with F the Police, and people were asking, what do you look at? I would say more than half of all my friends are police. And a lot of them were very pissed about that song. But I defended them because you know what? Everything they said on that song, I've been dealing with as a black man. So to see these kids, and if you really listen to the lyrics, that's why I used to always tell the parents, sit down with them and listen to the lyrics. And then maybe you'll understand a little bit better where they're coming from. Now, back then, my opinion, back then, the lyrics were saying something. There was a message, even if it was a party, how good the party was, and they explaining what happened at the party. But some of the new stuff is a little bit different. And like I said, I'm trying to understand it. I can tell you this though, that out of all the new rap that's coming out right now, I love the women. These ladies are really, uh, sounding the way I like my rap music. I can't explain it, to see, Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion. Uh, my favorite new one is Coi Leray.
Yeah.
To see Latto, uh, see these ladies doing it like they're doing it. I'm just sitting here like, Ice Spice, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like a proud parent. I'm just sitting here like, damn, these ladies are killing the game.
They're killing the game. And they're lyrical with it. I'm like, I'm not an Ice Spice fan. I don't like her voice.
You got to catch up.
No. The timbre of her voice just, it's like nails on the chalkboard for me.
Well, I got a few like that. But
she's
like I said,
clever.
You got to just understand, man.
She's clever. Her lyrical content is great. It's clever. I'm going, she's talking that stuff. You know what I mean? And that's fun to me. But, I really have to put in concert monitors in my ears to lower the tone. Okay.
Look here. This lady did a song with Taylor Swift. And so she's going to be big. Taylor
she is
gonna make
big.
sure of it,
Yeah.
And I just look at it from all angles, and I would certainly wish her the best. I mean, there are artists. I'm not going to even comment on that one. But there are some that make you want to screech your fingers.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you another thing. There's some white rappers that I love.
Whoa, aren't there?
There are. I mean, I'm not talking about just Eminem, but
West Nile from New Jersey is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that, when we were doing it, there were no white rappers, so to speak. I'm talking about when we first started.
You got to tell the story of Ice.
The females weren't really, happening. I'm sorry?
I was like, you got to tell the story of Ice, right?
Ice T?
Vanilla
Ice Cube?
Vanilla Ice. You got to tell.
Oh, yeah, he came along later.
Go ahead. Go.
My buddy Chocolate, I think, produced Ice Baby. So props to him. I don't know. I don't dislike any of them. I tried to understand all of them. I just have nothing but love. But I also understand that, a lot of them gave me a pass, because I was playing their music.
Right.
I'll tell you a story real quick. I was coming out of the Hollywood, what's that? Was it the Palace right across from Capitol Records?
Yeah. That's what it is. College. Mm-hmm.
So I'm coming out of there one night, me and the young lady that I was with, and just out of the blue, we were surrounded by 10 Crips.
Mm.
And I'm like, where did they come from? So they circled us.
Mm.
And so my girl, she beat on herself. And I'm sitting here like, okay, where's this gonna go? So anyway, one of the gang members, he said, wait, man, wait, because they had guns and knives, you know. He said, that's Greg Mack. That's Greg Mack. 1580 K. Damn, dude. Oh man, can we take a picture with you? And so I see, well, yeah, what do you want me to say? You know what I'm
You
saying?
want me to stand?
So they had back then they didn't have the cell phones with the
Right.
cameras. And so they took out their little Polaroid and they took it, and when it printed out, I signed it. Someone wanted me to sign pieces of paper. And there was one guy that was with them. He didn't crack a smile at all. He didn't, he was like, all right, man, that's enough of this shit. Go on and get the fuck out of here before we change our mind.
Mm.
And so I said, okay. And then one dude said, man, I listen to you every day. I'm sitting there like,
Mm-hmm.
and so we got in the car and broke out. I'm like, what in the world just happened?
Yeah.
So that's one of the advantages to being tied in with the streets. We had a lot of stuff happen, dude. You got to wait for all of the stories. It's so many.
I'm excited to see the documentary. I'm excited to read the book. I don't want you to give a lot of spoilers. You've lived a life in the trenches of radio, in the trenches of West Coast music and rap. From the North. I think I visited you at your station up north once. Was that Vallejo? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, drove up from LA, visited you in Vallejo, and then like, wow, this is really amazing. Which is the hyphy culture. That's it. I'm like, oh my gosh. So how did you mesh with that? Coming from I just sparked the question. You're coming from LA, gangster rap is doing this thing. You know what I mean? West Coast rap is doing this thing, that style, the LA bards, you know what I mean? To go to a more party kind of loosey-goosey serious, but that kind of activist atmosphere. How did that work? How did you?
I think you're referring to Humboldt County.
Yeah, okay.
Used to be part of a station up there in Eureka, the pot capital of the world.
Yeah.
And during harvest season, they would bring in, dude, I'm not lying, garbage bags full of weed and saying, man, we love your station, man. We just brought you a gift, and I'm like, I don't, because I smoke weed maybe once every 2 or 3 years. I'm a lightweight. If I smoke weed, I'm done for 3 or 4 days. And so I'm sitting here like, I'm certainly not going to put this in my car and drive it home because I know I got friends that would, jump all over it. And I'm sure as hell ain't going to try and get on the plane.
Right.
So most of the time, I just gave it away to local people or threw it. I would throw bags of it. When I would bring groups up there, Tone Loc, DJ Quick, all these people would give them just gigantic bags. Ask them, Corrupt. They gave him a big old garbage bag full of weed. And so they were sitting there trying to smoke as much as they could. They were like, Greg, whenever you want us to come back, we'll come back up here for free.
We won't. We good.
I'm like, man. And so,
Greg,
yeah, I went to
amenities.
Station. I was part owner of a couple of stations in Fresno. One of them is a whole book by itself. I own first station, MC Hammer actually helped me get, was in Porterville. And currently in a business relationship with the station in Bakersfield. And it's called Precious 957. Listen to it online, guys. But what you hear on that station is me reinventing the wheel. And it's not hip hop, it's not R&B, it's not freestyle, it's not pop. It's a mixture of all the above. And you just don't hear what we're doing. We call it the new generation of old school. And I anticipate that that's going to be the hot new format
Mm.
because I've really, put a lot of energy into it. And we could be so much better. But I still haven't quit trying to create something that nobody else is doing. Part of the radio business now is they don't have an innovator. You're
Mm.
not allowed to be an innovator at a stock owned company.
Mm.
I'm a gunslinger,
Right.
and the stock buyers don't like that.
Yeah, they don't like the up and down. They want steady growth.
There you go. And
It's,
don't grow too big.
don't grow too big because yeah, that's crazy. It was I never heard that business strategy before.
Mhm,
So I can presume it's pretty unique to radio, maybe.
mhm.
Um, man, I would like to know also, you've had, a lot of accomplishments. On Could I know what has been the most satisfying highlight for you of your career?
The most satisfying highlight wasn't radio, it's family stuff. But if you're talking about radio,
Mm.
the most satisfying has been to watch all of the seeds that I planted in the music and the radio business, and they're growing. They have grown. Uh, to see, you would be shocked at the number of DJs around the country that you know got their start. I gave them their first gig. You know, and the artists, to see them all doing so well. That has been my biggest happiness. Just knowing deep inside that, yeah, I was a part of that. I was a part of that. And then to see some of the biggest stars that, you had friendships with them, but, as they get bigger. One of my friends gave me the quote of the probably my lifetime, which is Janet Jackson. We used to, when she first started, kind of stay in touch.
Mhm.
But she told me when I first got out here to LA, and we were hanging out, and she was kind of seeing the reaction. And so she said, "Let me just tell you, here's the thing. You always remember this. It's not, it's not, when you get big, okay, and it's not you that changes." She says, "I can tell you're like me. You're never going to change.
Mhm.
It's the people around you that change. And what happens when these people around you change? They think you should be acting a certain way. They think that you should be dressing a certain way. You should be driving a certain car. You should be living in a certain home. And if you get caught up in that, that's when you lose it. Just always be you." And I've always remembered Janet sharing that with me. You know.
Mhm. Yeah, and that all I could do is say hashtag indeed.
Exactly.
That's the truth. Universal Hip Hop Museum is gonna open this year in the Bronx. Have you been out yet, or have you had
I used to be on the board.
ah?
Um, with Rocky and several of the people.
Mhm.
Um, there were differences as to where the direction of it was, and also, um, I'm trying to think of a nice way to say that I just let's put it this way: there was very big differences. So
Mhm.
I really don't do anything with them anymore.
Mhm.
Uh, but I'm very, very happy uh, with what they've accomplished. I'm actually kind of surprised, to be honest with you. But I wish Rocky the best.
I think I did my first piece on the concept with just renderings of what was to come,
Hmm.
2017 or something like that, way back when. And yeah, I'm really happy, and I haven't been out there yet to see it, but I'm hoping to have an appropriate radio section and are able to tell a part of the story. You know what I mean? Reserve the full story for you to tell in the documentary and the book, most certainly. But I would like to see you included.
Yeah, I would. I'd like to be included,
Yeah.
but I would also like them to have a West Coast subdivision because I have 99.9% respect for East Coast, but I got to leave some for my West Coast.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm sure that they will touch upon the West Coast, but I will just say this one thing that, in the developing of it all, it was designed to make sure that the East Coast started the museum first.
Of course.
And I'm not an East Coast, West Coast kind of person. I don't have a coast. I like all coasts.
Mm-hmm.
But I just felt like it wasn't getting the love it deserved. And so if you're wondering what the differences were,
No, I don't. Do
that's
drama
all
and
it was.
beef. I don't do
Mhm.
drama and beef.
There's no beef.
Okay.
I have nothing but love for Rocky. As far as I'm concerned, we'll always be friends. And I do hope that I end up in the museum. I should be. And they definitely should do something on the DJs. I mean, Red Alert, Magic, Mr. Magic, Lady B, Marley Merle. These are all people that should definitely get their dues. We are working on some kind of documentary together where it's called The Four DJs That Started It All.
Okay.
And so there's three East Coast people, and then there's me. But I'm actually kind of excited about doing that.
That's going to be. I mean, I don't know what you could tell us, but that would be amazing. And I think you're strong enough. You've done it for the West Coast before. You're strong enough to carry the West Coast again on your shoulders for that project. I don't.
Thank you. But like I said, we didn't just play. We would play an East Coast record like it's nothing.
Like it's nothing, yeah.
Couldn't say the same thing for the East Coast.
Yeah.
It took Dre and Snoop many years to get played over.
I remember the speech. I remember the Source Awards. Trust me. I was like, oh God, here we go. Anyway, but I
can I say one thing?
You can
Can I tell you the one person that I thought did so much for hip hop and has been so misunderstood? Suge Knight.
Sure.
And I believe that. And let me tell you why I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of these guys weren't getting treated right in the contracts. They weren't getting the money. They weren't getting the respect. They weren't getting the love. Suge stepped in and started getting people. Now, if you remember radio stations, record companies, you could just walk up in there, After Suge, there's security everywhere, still is today.
Yeah.
But, I know that he's, and I have certain stories, thank God, more pleasurable stories with Suge. And I've always felt that he kind of broke the door down, literally, for a lot of people. Even though if it didn't directly affect you, believe me, it did indirectly. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think he gets the respect he deserves. I'm not his buddy. I'm not his, friend. We don't talk. We don't hang out. I'm just looking from afar because I analyze things like that, and he's so misunderstood, I think. Now his methodology isn't exactly
methodology is Trumpian.
Yeah, he's but I think he's, I certainly wish him the best.
I interviewed Marcus Taylor, who played Suge in a couple of, and I'm like, bro, what was it like to prepare for this role? He says, I just had to go to a totally different place. You know what I mean? I had to be willing to get loose. I'm like, enough said. That's all I need to know. Okay, but Suge did, and for full transparency, I worked for Lyd and Harry O. So from the Godfather Entertainment side, I understand some, I saw things a little different. But
look, I saw a lot and heard a lot and did a lot, and I could sit here and have the same argument as to why I don't like it. But I'm looking at the overall picture.
Yeah, I was going to agree with you that he made a difference, and he was a impactful presence in helping artists to get out of bad situations. People call them slave contracts. I don't know what they were. I've never made music, been an artist, or signed anybody like that. But I know that there were some really bad deals when you have Prince coming out against labels and, other entities.
Well, if you're a record exec,
Mm.
the last person in the world you wanted to see knocking at your door
Ice Cube
was Suge Knight.
Suge
Okay.
Knight. Yeah.
Now, how many people do you know that demand that? So I'm just saying. I'm not saying that I
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that I have a relationship with the man. I do not. Just looking from afar, I'm just like, thank you for stepping in to making sure that some of our sisters and brothers got their money and respect that they got and still have because of him. Now his methodology, that's questionable, but
effective.
he got it done.
It's effective, So you have to, give him credit where credit is due. He made a difference. And he also made people understand you don't have to. My takeaway from it is you don't have to live on your knees to live. You can create your own, and as a collective, protect your own thing, your own project, and first count on your money. And, but you just have to have the opportunities and the tools and resources and things and go out and get it and learn it. Educate yourself. So I respect that. Definitely. The politics I'm not involved in. I just got a chance. Okay, you're good. All right, everybody. The Hype Magazine live session is Greg Mack Attack Mack. He is the creator of many defining moments within music and the radio scope. I'm not trying to steal the radio scope tag, but in the space of
Lee Bailey, that's my buddy Lee.
Yeah, Lee Bailey, EUR Web. Go check out the site. Amazing. Is there anything you wanted to cover that I may have neglected? And where can they find you? How can they listen to you?
No, I tell people all the time, if you want to email me, you can email me directly, gregmackshow@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook under Greg Mack Show. You can go to Instagram @Greg Mack Show. I think my Twitter is at Greg at 947 or something like that. I need to set up one for me, but that's because I'm still doing my show on 94.7 The Wave in Los Angeles. So just Google me. You'll probably see more than you wanted to see.
Lord.
I'm not hard to find. I'm not hard to find. As long as you don't find my obituary, I'm still doing my thing.
That's what I'm talking about. Just come see me. Don't view me. All right, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for all the love you've shown me over the years. Thank you for being in my wedding. You did not waste your time. We are still together 20 years. Greg
Awesome.
Mack Attack Mack, a giant in West Coast hip hop, rap.
Transformational
giant. Yeah, man. He's the man, my friend. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
All right, my man. God bless.
Peace and blessings.
Okay.
As an artist, we should reflect the time.
Why you so talented?
Cause I'm black.
Why you so amazing?
Cause I'm black.
It's really important that we build characters so that people understand their story matters.
2 Chainz and I both are just really into good food.
And when you know you are royalty, you will only aim in life to be royalty.
We're doing it right now. I don't give a damn what they say about me. Yes, I called your ass out. I know I shouldn't be saying this kind of.
Shout out the Hype Magazine Network.
Shout out to the Hype Magazine Network.